I've waited a long time for this. Last year I blogged about a strange machine I'd found in a scrap metal yard in Oregon. Thankfully, Tom Barnes at Bircham's Metals noticed that it was special and wasn't just headed to the meltdown pile. I sped down there, bought it. It's been wire brushed, sandblasted, repainted. Now I can demonstrate it to you. I think only a demonstration will show you how clever it really is. Let's start at this end. Here we have a drill, pretty conventional actually, geared, in pretty good shape considering its age. On this side I have a pair of handles. With my right hand I grab them, squeeze together, and the drill advances. So here's how I drill holes, one after another. There's also an angle plate on the back side here which lets me drill offset. One side centered or offset to the other direction. These two guides can be adjusted to capture the rim and hold it steady. But the cleverest part of this tool, and the prettiest really, is this invention. What it does is hold a rim with arms that are gear driven from the inside and capture the rim on its inner diameter. The top plate here has teeth that holds the gear in any position that you want. Underneath, what you can't see is a larger toothed gear which actually drives the arms. So watch them. Larger, smaller. Larger rim, smaller rim. Look at the range of rim sizes we can drill. And this wing nut guides the whole mechanism back and forth on this track so that we can bring the rim close to the drill if it happens to be a very small one. So I have a rim here. Let's put it in and that'll show you what's going on. Now that is tight. We now have a rim perfectly fixtured for drilling. Now the part that you can't really appreciate until I tell you is this little plate. Let me, there we are. It's labeled 24, 28, 32, 36, 40. Guess what? Rim drill numbers. This switch moves back and forth between the various 40, 36, 32, 28. And I'm quite proud to have made this little spring out of a stainless 14 gauge spoke to replace the one that was missing. Okay, 36 hole, which is what this rim is, and you can see a hole. Well, you can't, can you? A hole is perfectly lined up with the drill. If I were to drill right now, I would go right through a blank hole. When I finish that hole, I simply move it one indent, and the machine says stop here, and there's another hole. One more, all the way around, 24 to 40 hole, all indexed perfectly in this lacy, imaginative casting. It's hard to imagine a more elegant little system, and I think more interesting is the vision of 3,000 small bike makers in the US, each at a very small scale, each without electric power, steam, or water power, needing hand-powered machines. They certainly had fires and bellows to heat the tubing up to do brazing, and they were making bicycles, and they had to drill their own rims. Many had to make their own hubs. Many made their own nuts and bolts. This sort of machine would have been essential to that era, and don't you think a version of it today wouldn't be a bad idea? If this were a nice electric drill and the indexing was perhaps a little more 21st century, but the scale was about what we see, it would be handy for a small shop to be able to drill rims according to need. Blanks on the shelf, drill them job to job. sort of the way the spoke cutter can cut and thread a spoke to length. Blanks on the shelf, each job comes in, defines itself, and away we go. So I find this machine elegant. Working on it was like working on a bicycle. You can see it's sparse, elegant, efficient, artistic, and it also harkens to an era which is long gone, where shops were small and very self-reliant, and it has an interesting suggestion for our future. So I would really like to solicit anyone who wants to make a modern version of this to make contact. But more importantly, if you know about Keene, New Hampshire, and what the foundries were doing at the turn of the century, who made this, who designed it, who can take credit for it today, how many were made, were they exported? I'd love to know more. So thanks for listening. I hope you can see why I'm so pleased to be sitting next to this marvelous device.